Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to be looking at some really fascinating research
Yeah.
on a topic that unfortunately is relevant to a growing number of us, and that's dementia.
Yes, dementia. And specifically, we're going to be looking at, what's the life expectancy and the likelihood of needing nursing home care
Right,
after you receive a diagnosis of dementia.
because let's face it, getting that diagnosis can be scary.
Absolutely.
It raises so many questions about what the future
Hmm.
holds.
It does. And there's a lot of misconceptions and anxieties surrounding dementia.
Right.
So we're here to break it down for you based on the latest research and hopefully provide a more empowering perspective.
Yeah, and we're basing this whole deep dive on a really impressive study, a massive systematic review and meta-analysis
Huge.
published in the British Medical Journal just this month.
Yeah, this study is huge. It analyzed data from 261 individual studies,
Wow,
covering a staggering 5.5 million people.
that's a lot of data points.
It is a lot of data points.
Yeah. Talk about a comprehensive look at this topic.
Right.
So where do we even begin to unpack all of this information?
Well, I think the most important takeaway is that life expectancy after a dementia diagnosis is not a fixed number.
Okay.
It varies a lot depending on individual factors
Okay.
and the specific circumstances of the diagnosis.
So it's not like getting a diagnosis means you have X amount of time left.
Right.
That's actually pretty reassuring.
Exactly. And that's why this research is so valuable. It moves away from these broad generalizations and emphasizes the importance of personalized prognosis.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key factors that influence life expectancy after a dementia diagnosis?
Well, as you might expect, age at diagnosis is a big one.
Okay, that makes sense.
The study found that, generally speaking, the younger you are when diagnosed, the longer your life expectancy tends to be.
Okay, but I'm guessing there's some hard numbers behind that general trend.
There are.
What did the study actually find?
So for women diagnosed at age 60, the median survival time is 8.9 years. But if a woman is diagnosed at 85, that median drops down to 4.5 years.
Wow, so those are some pretty significant differences.
Yes, they are. And we see a similar trend for men. Men diagnosed at 60 have a median survival time of 6.5 years, and that drops to 2.2 years for those diagnosed at 85.
So age is definitely a major factor now when we talk about median survival time. What exactly does that mean?
Right.
Just to make sure we're all on the same page.
So median survival time simply means that half of the people in that group lived longer than that time frame and half lived for a shorter time.
Got it.
It's the midpoint in the range of survival times.
Okay, good clarification. So while those median survival times are helpful to know, they don't tell the whole story for any individual, right?
Exactly. It's essential to remember that these are just averages, and many people live much longer than these figures suggest.
Right.
This is about understanding the nuances and possibilities, not focusing on a single number.
That makes sense. So besides age, what other factors come into play when estimating life expectancy after dementia diagnosis?
Well, one interesting finding from the study is that women tend to live longer with dementia than men
Oh, really?
after they receive a diagnosis.
I would have thought there might be some biological reason for that.
It's a common assumption.
Yeah.
But the researchers actually found that the difference isn't due to biology. It's because, on average, women tend to be diagnosed later in the disease process than men.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So they may live longer with dementia after diagnosis, but they've actually lived more years overall without the disease.
Exactly. It highlights how crucial it is to look beyond simple comparisons and consider the bigger picture.
That's a great point. So early detection and diagnosis might be especially crucial for women.
Yeah, that's a takeaway worth highlighting.
Now, I'm curious about the different types of dementia. Does the specific type someone is diagnosed with have any bearing on their potential life expectancy?
It appears, so the study indicates that individuals diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease tend to have a slightly longer survival time compared to those diagnosed with other types of dementia, such as vascular dementia or Lewy body dementia.
That's interesting. Why would that be the case? Do we know?
Well, there are a few possible explanations,
Okay.
but more research is needed to understand this fully. One theory is that some types of dementia, like vascular dementia, might progress more rapidly.
So the type of dementia itself might influence the rate of progression.
Right. Another possibility is that differences in diagnosis timing play a role. Perhaps some types are harder to detect early on,
Okay.
which could skew those post-diagnosis survival figures.
That makes sense. So there's still a lot to learn about the relationship between dementia subtypes and life expectancy.
Absolutely, and that's why ongoing research is so vital now. Are you ready for a really fascinating finding
Yeah.
that surprised even the researchers?
Bring it on. I love a good research surprise.
This one has to do with geography. The study found that research conducted in Asia consistently showed longer survival times for individuals with dementia
Wait, really?
compared to studies done in Europe or North America.
Location makes that much of a difference.
That's what the data seems to suggest.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm immediately thinking, are there lifestyle factors at play here? Cultural differences in how we approach aging and caregiving, or maybe even variations in healthcare systems?
It's a complex issue, and the study doesn't offer definitive answers, but this geographic difference definitely raises some important questions
Yeah.
and opens up a whole new avenue for research.
I agree. I'm already itching to dive into more research on this. It makes you wonder if there's something we can learn from other cultures about how we approach dementia care and support here.
I think there's tremendous potential for that.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we can always learn from other perspectives and approaches.
This is why I love these deep dives. We
Right.
start with one study, and it opens up a whole world of questions and possibilities.
Exactly. So while we've covered a lot of ground already, we're just getting started.
Okay, before we move on, I think it's important to address the elephant in the room, nursing homes. It's a topic that weighs heavily on the minds of many people facing a dementia diagnosis, as well as their families.
Yeah, it's a valid concern, and the study provides some valuable insights into the likelihood of needing nursing home care
Okay,
after a diagnosis.
all right, let's dive into that. What did the researchers find?
So the study found that about 1/3 of people with dementia are admitted to a nursing home within 3 years of diagnosis. After 5 years, that number jumps to over half.
Okay, those are significant numbers, and I'm guessing age plays a role in that as well.
You're absolutely right. Just like with life expectancy, older individuals are more likely to need nursing home care sooner after diagnosis.
That makes an intuitive sense. Is there anything else that stands out to you from the nursing home findings?
Yes, actually, it's important to keep in mind that many studies might unintentionally overestimate nursing home admission rates
Okay.
due to a statistical concept called competing risk.
Okay, competing risk. Break that down for me. I'm not a statistician.
Imagine someone with dementia passes away before they even have the chance to be admitted to a nursing home. Their death essentially competes with the possibility of needing nursing home care.
Ah, I see. So some studies might not accurately reflect the true need for nursing home care because they don't factor in those individuals who pass away before admission.
Exactly. It's a methodological nuance, but it's important to be aware of when interpreting these statistics.
That's a great point. So while these findings give us some valuable insights into nursing home admission trends, we should interpret them with a grain of salt and remember that individual circumstances vary widely.
Precisely.
Well, we've already covered a lot of ground today, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this fascinating research.
There's so much more to explore.
So stay tuned, because in Part 2, we'll delve deeper into the concept of individualized prognosis and discuss how this research can empower you to make informed decisions about your care and future planning. Welcome back. Before we jumped into that whole nursing home conversation, we're talking about how location seems to play a role in how long people live after a dementia diagnosis.
Yeah.
The study found that research in Asia showed longer survival times than in Europe or North America.
Right, and as we were saying before, it's such a fascinating finding.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if there are
Sure.
cultural or lifestyle factors that contribute to this difference.
I know I'm already picturing a follow-up deep dive where we dig into specific practices
Yeah.
and different cultures. But for now,
Right.
what are some of the things that come to mind when you think about potential explanations for this geographic difference?
Well, one area to consider is diet. Many Asian cultures traditionally emphasize plant-based diets,
Right.
rich in vegetables, fruits, and fish,
Right.
which have been linked to cognitive health.
That makes sense. We often hear about the Mediterranean diet being good for brain health, but maybe there are valuable lessons to be learned from traditional Asian diets as well.
Yeah, it's definitely worth exploring. Another factor to consider is social support.
Okay.
In many Asian cultures, family plays a central role in caring for older adults, including those with dementia.
Right.
This strong family support system could contribute to a better quality of life and potentially a longer lifespan.
It makes you think about how important it is to build a strong support network, not just for the person with dementia, but for their caregivers as well.
Absolutely. Caregiving can be incredibly demanding, both physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
Having a supportive community can make a world of difference.
Now, I don't want to oversimplify things and say, let's all adopt Asian cultural practices, because it's obviously much more nuanced than that. But I think there's a lot we can learn from studying these cultural differences and seeing if there are aspects we can adapt or integrate into our own approaches to dementia care.
I completely agree. It's about broadening our perspectives and recognizing that there are many different ways to approach care and support.
Okay, so we've talked about age at diagnosis,
Yeah.
gender differences in diagnosis timing, dementia subtypes, and even the intriguing geographic variation in life expectancy. It feels like we're building a multifaceted picture of what life after a dementia diagnosis can look like.
And that's precisely the point this study really emphasizes, that there's no single path or outcome.
Right.
It's about understanding the range of possibilities and then focusing on what matters most to the individual and their family.
That brings us back to the idea of individualized prognosis, which you mentioned earlier.
Right.
Can you talk more about what that means and how this research can help empower individuals facing a dementia diagnosis?
Absolutely. Individualized prognosis means moving away from general statistics and predictions and instead taking a personalized approach. It's about considering all of the unique factors we've been discussing: age, gender, dementia, subtype, location, and any other relevant health conditions or lifestyle factors.
So it's like putting together a puzzle with all of these different pieces to get a more accurate and complete picture.
That's a great analogy, and the goal is to use this personalized picture to inform decision-making and planning for the future.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does this actually play out in real life? How can people use this information to make choices that are right for them?
Well, for starters, it highlights the importance of having open and honest conversations with your doctor.
Okay.
Armed with a more personalized prognosis, you can discuss your goals, your fears, your preferences for care, and any concerns you might have about the future.
It's about taking control of the situation and making choices that align with your values.
Exactly. And it's not just about medical care. It's about considering all aspects of your life. Do you need to make any legal or financial arrangements? Are there support services you could benefit from? Are there lifestyle changes you could make that might promote well-being as you navigate life with dementia?
This is where having a strong support network becomes so crucial, right? Not just for emotional support, but also for practical help with navigating all of these decisions and challenges.
You're absolutely right. This research underscores that dementia care is not just about the individual with the diagnosis. It's about supporting families and caregivers as well.
Because they're on this journey too,
Yeah.
and they need information, resources, and support to make the best decisions for themselves and their loved one.
I couldn't agree more. Now, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the need for more research. While this study is incredibly comprehensive, it also highlights areas where we need more answers.
You're talking about those intriguing findings around geographic variations in life expectancy.
Exactly. We need more research to understand why individuals with dementia in Asian cultures tend to live longer. What are the specific cultural or lifestyle factors that might be contributing to this? Are there lessons we can learn and apply in other parts of the world?
It's a question that begs for further investigation. And it speaks to the importance of diversifying dementia research to include more representation from different regions, cultures, and demographics.
I completely agree. The more diverse our research is, the more accurate and applicable our findings will be for everyone.
Speaking of areas where we need more research, the nursing home admission findings also raise some important questions. Remember, we talked about how some studies might be overestimating admission rates because they don't adequately account for the competing risk of death?
Right, that methodological nuance we discussed.
So it sounds like we need more research on how to better assess and predict the need for nursing home care among individuals with dementia.
Absolutely, and it would be incredibly valuable to explore what factors might delay or even prevent nursing home admission. Are there specific support systems, interventions, or lifestyle changes that can help people remain in their homes longer?
Those are such important questions.
Okay.
Seems like this study is opening as many doors as it's closing.
That's the beauty of good research. It expands our understanding while also revealing new avenues for exploration. It sparks curiosity and leads us to ask even more questions.
Well said. So where do we go from here? What's the key takeaway for our listeners as we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
I think the most important message is that a dementia diagnosis isn't a one-way ticket to a predetermined outcome. It's a journey with many twists and turns, and you have more control than you might think.
It's not about giving up hope or resigning yourself to a particular fate. It's about understanding the possibilities, having those crucial conversations with your healthcare team, and making informed choices that align with your values and goals.
Exactly. It's about living your life to the fullest, whatever that may look like for you.
Beautifully put. Okay, before we move on to our final part,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. I hope you're finding this exploration as insightful and thought-provoking as we are. Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive into dementia research, everything from life expectancy and nursing home admission to the fascinating differences we see across cultures.
It's been a lot.
I know, right?
But through it all, I think the biggest takeaway is this idea of empowerment, recognizing that a dementia diagnosis doesn't define your future.
Right.
There's so many possibilities, and you have the power to make informed choices
Yeah.
that align with your values and priorities.
I love that it's a message of hope and agency, which I think is so important when facing a diagnosis that can often feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, we wanted to leave you with something to ponder.
Yeah.
Something that really sparked our own curiosity as we were digging into this research.
Yeah, we keep coming back to those intriguing findings about longer survival times in Asian cultures.
I know, right?
It makes you wonder, what can we learn from those different approaches to aging caregiving and community support?
Is there something about the way those cultures view aging that fosters a sense of purpose and belonging, even in the face of cognitive decline? Or perhaps their emphasis on strong family ties and intergenerational connections provides a buffer against the isolation that can sometimes accompany a dementia diagnosis.
And let's not forget the potential impact of lifestyle factors.
Right.
Like diet and physical activity. We know those things play a role in overall health and cognitive function. So could they also be contributing to a longer lifespan for individuals with dementia?
It's a complex question with no easy answers, but it's definitely one worth exploring further, and it's a reminder that there's so much we can learn from other cultures and perspectives.
Exactly. So as you continue to learn about dementia and navigate this complex landscape, we encourage you to keep this global perspective in mind. What can we learn from other ways of life? What aspects of other cultures might we be able to adapt or integrate into our own approaches to care and support?
It's about thinking outside the box, challenging our assumptions, and recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. We hope this deep dive has not only provided you with valuable information, but also sparked your curiosity and inspired you to approach this topic with a more informed and compassionate perspective.
We hope so too. Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery.
Until next time, keep diving deep and stay curious.